High-ranking members of the Trump administration took a tour of Alcatraz Island 2 months after the president issued an executive order aimed at restoring the notorious prison to its former use. Lauren Toms has been following the high-profile visit and the heated pushback to this plan. Lauren, a lot of people are wondering if this is even feasible.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that pushback you mentioned coming not just from California leaders, including Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, who earlier called the plan one of the stupidest she's heard of, but also from onlookers here on this path, all of whom have told me they find this plan just unrealistic. But that's not stopping the Trump administration. As I watched from here this morning, as they toured the historic grounds of Alcatraz, their eyes set on restoring it to a functioning prison. Beneath the morning fog and before thousands of tourists set foot on Alcatraz Island Thursday morning, Attorney General Pam Bondi and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum arrived by Coast Guard vessel for a private tour. The visit comes 2 months after President Trump floated the idea of restoring the historic former prison into a functioning penitentiary. Walking the grounds of the island that once held notorious inmates like Al Capone, Bondi spoke about its potential in an interview with Fox News.
Alcatraz could hold the worst of the worst. It could hold middle-class violent prisoners. It could hold illegal aliens. It could hold anything. This is a terrific facility, needs a lot of work, but no one has been known to escape from Alcatraz and survive.
Alcatraz closed as a federal prison in 1963 due to soaring operational costs. It's now part of the National Park Service and a popular tourist attraction visited by more than 1.6 million people a year. A Department of Justice spokesperson confirmed to CBS News Bondi and Burgum received a briefing on the facility and surrounding island and directed staff to collaborate on necessary planning to rehabilitate and reopen the facility. Both arrived back on land at the Coast Guard's Golden Gate Station at Fort Baker. Then Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who also oversees the National Park Service, stopped by the Presidio for a tour. We asked him about his time on the Rock.
Secretary, what's your takeaway from your time at Alcatraz?
But he remained silent. Local leaders, however, have not. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi slamming the visit in an interview with CBS News Bay Area.
I said this was the stupidest. What I actually said is, with stiff competition, this is the stupidest.
While San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie says the high cost to renovate and operate Alcatraz as a prison should be put to better use on city streets.
They have no realistic plan to make this feasible.
It's a sentiment shared by onlookers, skeptical that the iconic former prison could ever be operational.
It's just a crazy idea. There's no sense to it whatsoever.
I think it's one of the dumber things I've heard in recent history.
I don't think it's possible, so I really don't stress about it.
I think it'd be a horrible thing not only for the country, but for our budget, our debt, and the repayment of it as well.
Now take a look at Alcatraz's location, completely surrounded by water in the middle of the bay. That right there is what makes it so expensive. Before it closed more than 60 years ago, just its maintenance costs were $5 million a year in today's dollars, and that's more than $52 million annually. But this effort is gaining some momentum on Capitol Hill. Pelosi's office confirming to me that legislation is expected to be introduced that would reduce some of the environmental protections that Alcatraz Island currently has, which would pave the way for the National Park Service to hand it over to the Department of Justice.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Lauren Toms in San Francisco. Appreciate that. Of course, as Lauren mentioned, a lot of hurdles before anybody is able to open Alcatraz to play host to prisoners again, both politically and legally. I spoke with CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson about what that would entail.
The federal government would essentially have to transfer this land from the Department of Interior to the Department of Justice. Then you would have to have Congress potentially go along with that, but also appropriate funds for the prison. We know that Congress holds the purse string.